Hey there, this is Atul from Team K29 Academy, and in this video, I'm going to talk about this project that we are going to build together on Agentic AI on building on top of AWS Cloud using a service called Bedrock, and we'll also use another service called SageMaker. And we're going to use within Bedrock there is a service called or component called AgentCore. So we're going to use this AgentCore as a service and then integrating with end-to-end building and deploying it. So first, I'm going to explain about the full architecture, and later I'm going to also tell you about how you get hold of this. And also, we're going to explain the whole thing that we are building together, what exactly the background, why we are doing it, everything that you need to understand right from basics to all the way actually implementing, building, deploying, and also how to write in your resume so that you can put that into your resume as an experience and implementation, and it showcase to you to potential client as well. So first, let me explain and walk you through. We're going to build everything inside AWS Cloud. So this is on top. You understand this is AWS Cloud. Within AWS Cloud, they will be using a service called Bedrock, which is to build generative AI, agentic AI based applications. There's another service called SageMaker, and that SageMaker service will be used to run your Jupyter notebook and do more kind of a development work. So we'll be using a little bit component SageMaker. Then we'll be using the a Python notebook on that SageMaker, build test there, and then deploy it on AgentCore runtime component, which will then be front-ended by this Streamlit application. We'll be also building this Streamlit application, which is a web application sitting in front. That's where your end users will be interacting on. So within that agent core, there is a component called AgentCore Runtime. This is where we are going to actually deploy this application or Agentic AI application. That AgentCore also has some other components, which is basically that AgentCore will interface with Bedrock, or through Bedrock, it will interface to LLM. Any LLM it can interact. We are going to use most probably the Claude or Amazon's Nova. That's something you can do and configure this for any large language model interaction. Now, this will also have the observability component. AgentCore has a observability component. This observability component will be sending the traces and logging and monitoring to other AWS components. This also has a called AgentCore also has a component called AgentCore Identity. So AgentCore Identity will be used for authentication, authorization, and also which will be leveraging Amazon Cognitive Service for this authentication, authorization, role access policies, etc. as well. Now, this AgentCore runtime will also interact with a gateway, which gateway will be to exposing to using your tools or external services. Like in this case, we are going to use AWS Lambda, which is serverless function within or function-based service on AWS Cloud, which will be used to interact with other things like web search as well as warranty on for product. So we'll be building this application as a customer service agent whose job will be to do warranty, do other product search, etc. So policies, etc. So that's what we're going to cover. As I proceed in this video, you will understand a little bit more about it. Now, this also AgentCore also have another component called memory, which is for short-term, long-term, what interactions are happening with the users to interact within the same session or for multiple users interacting. So we'll maintain everything through using session persistency as well as I said, both short-term and long-term memories as well. Now, everything will be front-ended by a web application, as I said just now earlier, Streamlit. This is where the users will be interacting. That in turn will be talking to AgentCore runtime, which will in turn talk to maybe for logging monitoring, maybe for LLM-based applications, memory, security, authentication, authorization, and then Lambda target, etc. as well. These are some of the application we'll be building in this program. So let me go back. This is the architecture look like, but let me go back and see and start what exactly is this and the whole thing is to understand it a little bit better. So first of all, the business problem we're going to solve is that, hey, traditionally you have a customers who come to the website probably and human interface, either human or even if chatbot comes, there are limitations with that, which is that typically they wait 8 to 10 minutes. 40% of the tickets get transferred and they only be available during business hours as well. Now for businesses, this will cost them $15 to $30 to solve this problem. 70% of these queries are repetitive, which can be solved by an agent in current world agentic application. That's what we're going to do. And now only 60 to 70% are solved on the first contact of the interface. That's the problem we are trying to solve. And in order to solve, we are going to use this agent, which will be replied within 30 seconds or under 30 seconds. We're also using 85 to 94% of queries will be solved within the first contact itself. And the cost will be much, much lesser, which is $2 to $5. So that means you're going to save easily 13 to around 20, 25, $28 per ticket. So it's a lot of saving over a period of time, depending on how many customer requests you get. Also, it'll be available round the clock, and human agent will be much more productive, 2 to 3 times more productive. That's what we're going to build as well. So this is just to do the numbers, and this is just to put down your use cases when you're applying for the job. So another important thing is when you're explaining the job or when you're explaining the project that you've done in implementations for a client, explain in this business problems. That is how business understand very well. Now, I'll give you some background so you understand the whole context about this project, and it'll also be useful for you when you come and do. I'll show it to you how where it all be available, like how you can access it as well. So for stage one is typically in early when you started with 2010 or 2018, there was a rule-based policies which were written, which is very, very rigid. It didn't work at all. Then machine learning came, and then a lot of normal machine learning based agents were coming. They were still solving the problem, but not to the level which we are now sophistication have come with large language models as well. So now in 2021 to 2023, this LLM based large language model based agents came. They solved some of the problems, but then now agentic AI, which is the way we are talking today, or today we are going to do, which is AI agent. This is where we will be using large language models, but also integrating with tools, third-party tools that we'll be seeing. We'll also be interacting them with reasoning, also memory, and which also will retain authentication, authorization, also store short-term, long-term memories for session consistency, also multiple interactions, multiple background, all those things can be tracked. This is just to do how it's been evolved. Now we are going to use AI agent, and AI agent, if you're new, will be covering, there's a dedicated modules for our dedicated program inside for you, which is just completely for AI agents. In a high level, agents have their own autonomy. They do reasoning. They do act based on this reasoning of using that autonomy. They also use tools that we'll see when you continue this video on how they use tools. They also have memory and need memory to maintain that consistency so that they don't lose the context as well. And we'll do it in a phased approach so you'll understand the whole context. And of course, they adjust adaptability, change based on what users are trying to do on their own itself as well. So I'm not going to go again on to agent versus chatbot versus workflow, but in simple terms, workflow is we're going to leverage on for process, but maybe you can work through it, and we'll cover some of the background and some go deeper when we actually go and explain inside the program or inside the code. When you do the project, that's when we'll go a little bit better. But I hope you're clear with agent versus chatbot. This chatbot we are going to leverage, but on more human nature with agent as well. Now, just to give a good idea about or basic idea about if you're new, just to get the context, large language model is the one which will be doing and acting, doing the reasoning and acting. There are a lot of large language models now. For example, Claude from Anthropic has Sonnet, Opus, Haiku. Similarly, AWS has their own, Microsoft has its own. Maybe a lot of companies are now creating their own LLMs. Or you have OpenAI from GPT from OpenAI, sorry, and so on. Now, you also need some tools which will be going and interacting with your maybe a database, maybe your third-party services, maybe your Zendesk, maybe your project management tools and so on. So hook your agents with external third party. You also need a RAG, which is a retrieval augment generation. This is to give your context or knowledge base or customer specific data to the user. So that's where I'm going to use a RAG. Memory insight, as I said multiple times, you need to maintain the session both at that particular session at a user level, but also multiple different users for a long-term, short-term memory. That's why I'll be using that memory. It can also, these LLMs or agent can reason, act on your behalf. And of course, you need to know authentication. You want to see, before pulling out the user's data, you need to authenticate that user, also maintain that this user is authorized. You can't reveal the data without knowing who this user is. And also within authentication, you also need to maintain agent authentication, what permissions that user have, that agent has. You also need to control which agent can access what kind of a data as well as what kind of a services backend. So this authentication and authorization and policies are very, very important with respect to. So this is what on a high level you need to be understanding as well. Now, as I said, so just to give you the context of what we're going to do in terms of what we're going to build in this project, we're going to use some tools, and the tools will be using a method. So you need to have some basic programming knowledge or Python knowledge. If you don't have that Python knowledge, it's okay. If you're not a developer, then you don't need to worry about. You just need to understand as an architect, as a manager, as a developer, as a DevOps engineer or MLOps engineer, or nowadays Agent Ops engineer, or as a QA. But if you're a developer, you have access to a Python program, go and access that Python program and attend that as well. Now, so what we're going to do is we are going to agent will do multiplicity so that if a customer comes and say, hey, what is I want to return or what is the return policy, we can retrieve and do. And like that, every function that you want it agent to perform, you need to have something custom how to interact in such situation. So we'll be using return policy. We also need to have a function about these will be built in within lab. We have given that entire code, so you don't need to develop. And if you want to develop from scratch, you can these days you can ask ChatGPT or Claude to build these things as well. We are also going to use product info that will detail or pull out that is where my agent will go and pull out the product info from my knowledge base. Similarly, it will pull out the return policy returns from my knowledge base, which is RAG, which you mentioned earlier. It will also be getting a technical support if I need to go for the human or other technical support. This is where I'm going to pick as well. Now we are also going to use the external tools in this case, but through the shared gateway that we are AgentCore gateway. So we'll be using for web search. It will go and search on the web. It'll also check the warranty on my database, which is external database as well. Now, what we're going to use, of course, you need to have an AWS account. Will be you can do it on the free account. You need to do some processing of your account, especially if you're doing free account. Again, there's a dedicated module and lab about how do you do this create or you warm up your account in AWS Cloud, which warming up is where you do so that you can Bedrock and a SageMaker can be accessed. Sometime if you're free account, it needs to warm up. We've seen in especially new accounts, you should need a Bedrock access, and you need to also need SageMaker, which comes by default. Now, we are going to do Python. We are going to use deploy Python 3.0, but you don't need to do anything on your laptop. Laptop, you just need a browser, but rest everything we are going to do in AWS Cloud. So we are going to spin up a Jupyter notebook inside the SageMaker that will become my development environment. There's a dedicated lab and module inside this. You'll see somewhere. I'll show it to you on, and if not, maybe external lab. Yeah, so they'll be connected on our in our main program where you should have already initiated a SageMaker notebook and do, but otherwise we'll cover that. Don't worry. Within that SageMaker, we'll be opening a new Jupyter notebook. Inside that, we'll be installing Python 3.10 or higher. You on that Streamlit pick, you should also have AWS CLI, but again, steps will be there. And then we're going to use Claude, whatever. Maybe I'm saying 3.7, but it could be new one. And if because these LLMs can change the way behave, there's another thing which is a more advanced will be coming when you go for more advanced things. So there's a called as LLM router we can use and change LLMs within. So you build a agent in such a manner so that it's not dependent on any one particular model or which in this case Claude 3.7 or Sonnet. It might be by the time of recording this a new version might come, so you might be will be using that, or so in a typical you can use a particular LLM. Will be by default. Earlier you had to enable these models in Bedrock. Nowadays they comes by default as pre-built, but you should double check. So this is what we'll be building. I've already mentioned you architecture, but first user will be querying. So if you look at the flow, user will be doing question answers, and agent which is deployed in my AWS Bedrock will be replying through this Streamlit application, which is again nothing but a library or framework of Python to build my front-end, back-end web application, front-end application, back-end applications. If you're a developer, you probably understand it. If you're not a developer, don't need to worry about. Understand the context that you probably do. That will interact with this agent, which is deployed on AgentCore runtime environment inside my Bedrock, and then that will be doing some processing. As I said earlier, I'm not going to repeat it, but once you build, you will understand a bit more on this. So what you're going to do is first, so this whole project is a combination of around 5 labs, so that you can build one at a time, and you can see it's growing. That's how you should be doing development part as well. Now, first of all, we'll create a prototype. We're going to build a simple strand agent. So strands is nothing but you can think of as a framework on Python framework, which will be developed or from AWS proprietary framework, which you can use for building AWS based agents. Now you can do it on others like LangChain, LangGraph, or other frameworks for agentic AI based frameworks, but we're going to do it in this because you're doing a deployment, but just to show it to you, you can do whatever tool you want. Now, when you do that, we'll not put any memory, so it will do some work, but it'll forget because there's no memory attached. Then in the lab 2, we're going to, AgentCore will giving it memory, which will be both short-term and long-term memory. So can recall, agent will remember, that will extend it. So first we do basic agent, we'll extend it with memory. Third, we are going to then scale it with gateway and identity, then in till here it will not be having an interacting with third party in on other places. So this is where we'll be using identity, we'll be using shared tokens, and we'll be leveraging AWS Lambda, and we'll be authenticating through identity and agent core identity, but we're using Amazon Cognito service. Now, once that's done, we are going to deploy in production, and this is where we'll be using hosting and running on agent core runtime. This is where you'll be using session continuity, isolation, as well as CloudWatch, which is another service in AWS to observability. And for that reason, if you have not gone through, please go through your AWS basic services. We have given the basic services and how to leverage these. There's another service called CloudWatch. You should have enabled, if not already, the second or third lab, which is about monitoring and management, including billing and alerts through CloudWatch service. Now, once that's done, which is fine, but we can't give it to the user yet because there's no interface, and that's where we'll be building this interface. This will be using Streamlit application and reason time. And then finally, we'll do end-to-end state. Ultimately, we'll be ready to test this, and then we're going to do endpoint will be given for authentication authorization on chat application. So that user interface is the one which will be given to the users that can deploy that interface. You can deploy it on a web-based browser, or you can build an application that will in turn will be using APIs to connect to your agent core where this application is deployed. Now, ultimate end state is that we are going to have a complete customer facing support agent built agent on agentic AI based application, and we'll be remembering short calls, tools, scales, observability, and build on using real UI. Now you can further extend it. So if you're part of our recently Anthropic Claude program, you can further enhance and you build applications, a lot of other things you do inside the Claude program as well. So just to give you the services we'll be using is, first of all, there's a Bedrock, of course, I said is a service to build agentic AI based applications. This is where you're going to use LLMs and can interface and talk to other LLMs as well. This is the brain, this is the main point which we'll be doing. Now, agent core memory for, I've already mentioned for recall, and then for long-term memories. There's a gateway to code to the third party. Agent core identity, authentication, authorization, runtime, where this agentic based application will be running and executing, and then of course observability monitoring and so on. This is what we're going to do. So ultimately, this is what the key takeaway from this learning. Now let me show it to you where to find this, how you can get hold of this, access this for you. Well, so this project is one of many projects that we cover inside our job focus program, which is on how to get a 300,000 plus job in AI data or cloud in less than 6 months using our proven 3-step framework. So just to give you the a little bit framework in terms of, this is the first step of this framework where we take you from not confident to becoming super confident, where we teach you using project-based learning. And so this is kind of a project. This is one of many projects, not just AWS, but Azure, LangChain, LangGraph, Agentic AI, Generative AI, Claude, and based other things as well. We also help you with relevant certifications that will help you in your journey based on your background, your career. Once you become confident, we start helping you in with implementing and helping you in applying for the jobs, where we take you from no interview call to multiple interview calls, and we do two different things. And then once you start getting interview calls, from no job offer to multiple job offers. Now I'll also give you and tell you what you can expect. I'm running a free class on what you can expect, and that free class will be talking about. But just before that, we have two tracks for you to learn. A fast track, which will you can start seeing results very quickly, into also second option number two, which is realistic. If you're busy and if you want to take it slow, how you can get hold of both the options as well. But let me walk you through in terms of what you can expect. This is how the portal project look like. This is one of the many projects. So this is one comprehensive project where we'll be doing and broken down to smaller parts. You create an AWS account, you create an identity access management users, you create a Jupyter notebook on a SageMaker, you access how to use SageMaker, Bedrock. All those things are given in one of the prerequisite sections as well. Also, then we go and do all these very comprehensive, very detailed each of these individual labs, which I mentioned earlier as well. Now, as I said, let me walk you through what you can expect in this free class and how you can get hold of access of this free class as well. Okay, so I'm almost done with my completely new rebranded free masterclass on how to get a 300,000 plus job in AI, data, or cloud in less than 6 months. My proven 3-step framework to targeted to get a highly paid job, whether you're a leader, manager, architect, developer, DevOps, admin, or engineer. We'll be looking at different job roles based on your background as well. So these are some of the job roles I'm going to look and talk about what you should be doing. So just to give you some context on what we're going to look at. First, we're going to look at how tech jobs are changing and what you need to do in 2026 to succeed, whether you're working on, or the three domains we're going to talk about: AI, hugely popular, that depends on top of data. And then both of these AI and data in turn requires underlying infrastructure, which is cloud. We'll also look at your career path on how to get others are doing. I have done it myself, and hundreds of others have done in excess of $300,000 plus job. Three-step proven framework in all these roles under less than 6 months. Even if you don't have any experience on AI cloud, that's what we're going to teach, how to gain that experience from your existing knowledge. We'll also look at some of the tools, the skills, and real world projects you need to have. We'll also look at what are the kind of a salaries you can expect based on different job roles. And finally, there'll be question answers. I'll be taking up questions as long as it takes for this. Also, for those who stay till end, there's some gift also I'm going to talk about. And so this is a three-step proven framework. I've completely revamped or revised and added some context. So if you've attended this in past, you'll still get tons of value. So if you are not confident on applying for the job, we'll talk about how to go from not confident to super confident. Then once you start applying for the jobs, the common problem is you don't get interview calls. So how to go from not getting or hardly getting interview calls to multiple interview calls, and from once that's done, once you start getting interview calls, how to go from not job offer or struggling to get job offer or clearing the interviews to clear those interviews as well. So that's what we are going to cover in this. I'm also going to give you the two tracks. One is fast track, which some of you guys might need job in couple of weeks, starting out so that you start seeing results as early as couple of weeks. Two, someone those who have a little bit more time, which is more if you're busy and have a little bit more time, then more what is with balancing your job and family and other responsibilities, what you should do, which is very, very important in current world as well. Also, as I said at the end, there'll be gift for attending live, some cloud related stuff which will be highly, highly desirable. So we'll begin and show it to you what are the jobs, as I said, data and cloud related things. Now, AI is completely changing the way things work. So that's what we're going to look at, and completely new operating model for you to upskill or you to upgrade yourself if you really want to be successful in 2026 as well. So this is where we're going to look at different type of job roles that you'll see on different, and then we're going to look at what you need to do. This is what you're going to build right from data to generative AI, agentic AI to learning cloud, which will be running on top of infrastructure, and then building real projects, and then a resume. Ultimate impact is building the resume that grabs attention, and then mock interviews. Let me go a little bit deeper into what you'll be looking. But before that, as I said, this is what the three-step framework which I'm going to cover as well. If you're coming first time, this is me. I'm going to talk about a little bit me, but I've gone from earning less than $100 a month back in 2000, 2001 to then upgrading to 400, 500, 700,000, now in excess of £1,000 a day, which is in excess of three or $400,000 if you talk and convert that into per day. And these are some of the clients I've worked across the globe, and that's what I'm going to share my mistakes which I've done so that you don't do those mistakes as well. And using this same proven three-step framework have been got hundreds of guys who have got results, like Steve got a job as a AI engineer. Debashi's got a job as first initially cloud and then AI engineer. SJ, her husband got a new job, and she almost doubled her salary. Shavik got a job as an enterprise architect. Devesh landed job solution architect. Dinesh got a job as project manager. Mansoor, VP for engineering bank. Srija, after struggling to get a job in AI machine learning, after struggling to find a job in Canada to getting a job in AI and machine learning. Malia, Gopinath, Amol, Zeel, Shrikar, Arti, Bezel, Gunita, Narsimha, Atta David, Adober, hundreds and hundreds of them will be talking about how they did it and what mistake they did it. I said not one, two, three, but hundreds of guys who are working at some of the biggest companies across the globe, like Accenture, JP Morgan, Wipro, Microsoft, Capgemini, TCS, Infosys, PwC, you name the company. Most of the guys probably you'll find someone or other working whom we help. So that's what I'm proud of. So that's what we're going to cover. As I said, I have a lot of to cover. Probably keep aside 2 hours. The URL is kittenacademy.com/300k10. So 300k for 1000. So 300k10. That's what we're going to cover tomorrow. Very excited, super excited to in less than 24 hours. I look forward to see you in the class.